The Tyson's Gift podcast was created to promote the normalization of metaphysical and spiritual topics, particularly the reality that we are all eternal souls having an earthly experience. Obviously, this will cover a wide berth of topics such as animal communication, mediumship, the paranormal, past life regression, energy healing, you name it. Brandon hopes to entertain his audience with fascinating discussions with experts, as well as everyday folks who have metaphysical experiences and knowledge to share. The intention is to help make esoteric topics fun, relatable, and credible for audiences of all backgrounds. And here is your host of the Tyson's Gift podcast, Brandon Wainwright.
Hello, and welcome to the Tyson's Gift podcast on WLTK-DB Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Wainwright. I'm the author of Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, which that's what the show is all based upon. So this is my trusty co-host, Pepper Wainwright, which if you've read the book, then you know why Pepper is an essential member of our show and a worthy co-host. Now, right now, she doesn't really look like she wants to be here. You want to be here? Give me the sideways eyes. Okay. We'll let her go now. She's so funny. Yeah, she's funny because she loves to cuddle, but she doesn't generally like to be held that much for some reason. But she loves to cuddle up on with you on her own terms. So. She's definitely an affectionate dog, just not in the way that, I necessarily like. I love it when I can pick her up and love on her, which that's what I used to do with Tyson a lot. And she's just not down. So anyway, we got a great show for you tonight. It's actually the first of two parts. It's an interview with Eden Koz, who is, I'm going to go ahead and read you her bio right now. Eden is a healer, educator, psychological empath, and intuitive. Eden founded Just Be in 2006 to help people of all ages and walks of life heal and expand by finding their own strength and resiliency. Beyond doing private sessions and group initiatives in person and remotely, Eden wrote for the Huffington Post and currently produces and hosts her podcast, Just Be Spiritual Boom. After 2 brain surgeries in 2016, complete with a near-death experience, Eden has been on a mission to help others heal, as well as to grasp the full awakening of consciousness that the world is experiencing today. Eden can be found at edenjustbe.com, edenjustbe.com/podcast, and edenghostbusters.com. So, on that note, I'm going to bring Eden in. Eden Koz, come on down.
Ooh, that was loud. Woohoo! Hello, Brandon.
Now, I'm sure the audience has noticed that I didn't have any toilet humor today. That's because honestly, nothing organic happened over the last week that I really felt like I should talk about on the air. So, but as we discussed before, you volunteered to do that for me. So this is a first for the Tyson's Gift podcast. But yes, Eden has agreed to share some toilet humor from her own life. So Eden, take it away.
Okay, I'll go right ahead. And my daughter would not be appreciative of this, but she's not knowing that I'm going to be talking. She has an issue with flushing the toilets when she leaves in the morning. So my studio is at my home. So when people want to use the bathroom downstairs, sometimes I forget that my daughter has not flushed the toilet. So they are presented with a beautiful gift. Not a Tyson's gift, but lots of gifts. And
what's your daughter's name?
Tatum. Oh,
Tatum.
Tatum.
Tatum's gift. We're gonna call this segment affectionately from here forward, Tatum's gift. And
so she leaves for my client.
How could it be more appropriate than that? That's great. It's perfect.
Gosh, Tatum and Tyson, same number of letters, everything. Okay, so there you go. Did that Was that credible enough? Was that good enough compared to what you typically talk about?
Yes, I'd say that's worthy.
Comparable?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
all
and
right.
yeah, and I could picture people walking in with the facial expression they would make when they saw it. I could picture the facial
Yes,
expression you would make upon realizing that your guest saw Tatum's
yes,
gift. Yeah, it's
yes. Yeah, and
all
let
good
let me
stuff.
comment, Tatum is also special needs, so I don't wanna
Yeah,
highlight that. She is wonderful. So that's one of the issues that flushing the toilet
yeah,
is a really big deal. So there you go.
yeah. No, it's not meant to be disparaging. It's just funny. I just find toilet humor to be so very funny. It
Well,
brings
there you
light.
go.
It brings
Yes,
lightheartedness and joy to the world if you're
there you go.
willing to take it in.
I'm so curious how you're
Okay.
gonna parlay all of this into that. Okay, let's
Um. Well, I don't know. I do it every week. It seems to work. Okay. So now that we've talked about crude stuff, now we're going to get into the stuff
oh,
that's more
okay.
pertinent to our spiritual journey and why we're here on the
Okay.
earth, and love and light and things that are much less frivolous than caca and stuff. Although, you know what?
Yes.
Actually, caca is not frivolous. It's important. Caca is
It's
very
very
important. We
important.
could not
It
survive
is.
without caca. Okay.
Mhm. Yes.
All right. Okay. So, um, tonight we're going to be talking about some deep stuff. So Eden
Yeah.
is she's got all kinds of stuff to offer, and I mean to the point where that's why we felt like we needed to do two episodes because this isn't going to be able to be done in just 1 hour. There's just too much to cover. We've got a couple people that have tuned in that have given us a shout out. We've got Jonathan Doyle. Hi from Ireland. Wow, that's really
Nice.
cool.
See?
Thanks for checking in, Jonathan. I'm actually, I guess I'm a quarter Irish. Um, yeah, I think it's a quarter. It might be a little. No, I think it's a quarter. My grandfather was at least half Irish, so I have never been there, but I really would like to come see it. It's one of my places on the planet that I most want to see is Ireland. Keith Fletcher says hello, everyone, and Michelle Shenton says hello from or Michelle Shelton. I'm sorry. Hello from Virginia. And just subscribe to your
Nice.
channel. Thank you. Recommended by Queen of Cup Water Bendita, who will be on your channel tomorrow. Very cool. That maybe is that maybe that's you. Maybe she's talking to you.
Oh,
No,
oh,
no.
no. Or maybe okay.
Something. Well, that was weird. That was weird. Something was just like scratching around in my little garbage can next to it where I'm sitting, and I thought
Uh-huh.
maybe I thought, oh, okay, never mind. The dog is in the room. I thought she had left.
Oh
Okay,
gosh,
never
okay.
mind. I thought
Wow.
maybe we had a ghostly visitor here tonight.
What
Okay,
a kickoff.
okay. So you, Eden is
Yes.
she has a very diverse background, and she wasn't always in the woo woo field. So you were in advertising, correct?
Mhm. Yeah, so for 15 years, starting out in the business side of advertising, I always wanted to be creative, so I went back to school. So became an art director, graphic designer, moved up to creative director. All the titles that VP of agency. So yeah, that was my career, and I mean, I was dedicated to that. That was at the time before I started doing deeper spiritual work. That was a big label for myself. So yes, and I loved
And
it. It was really great.
like approximate time period when you were doing that?
So that would have been right after I graduated college. So I was in my 20s to early 30s within that. So I'm 55 right now. And that was one of the reasons that I started doing spiritual work. I had gotten to the point where, I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, feeling very off balance. So two of my dear friends, we went out to dinner one night and they had just started seeing this woman, and she was a meditation instructor, and it wasn't meditation that I went, "Ooh, that sounds great." They said she was great. And I was at this point where I was just like, something about her, that's where I need to go.
Hmm.
So she ended up being my teacher for 6 years, and at this point, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and my former husband's job was gonna take us to Alabama, And she approached me and she's like, you need to start teaching this. And it was a perfect
Wow.
time because I was leaving my career, because it's a pretty good place to be in the
Yeah.
creative industry. I did not, and I had two little ones at the time, 4 and 2.5. So to start up a new career in Mobile, Alabama, I had no interest, and plus had these little kids. So I was like, okay, I could be a mom and start doing this on the side. And what a place to start, Mobile, Alabama, which was
Yeah.
actually lived in Daphne, Alabama. So I was really seen as a tree hugger. They weren't quite used to
Yeah.
me,
I could imagine,
which was
especially
great.
especially back then, right? I mean, things
Yes.
have evolved a lot even there since then.
Yes.
But yeah, so you were a student that was ready for the teacher,
Exactly.
and
Yes.
and then the circumstances in your life fell into place to open the door for you, right? And that's kind of
Exactly.
I feel that way about what's happened to me too over the being kind of sort of forced to leave California. I mean,
Yeah.
I made the choice, but I was sort of forced to do it, and and now it's like the opportunity. It's like this is a good time. This is it. This is the opening
Right.
is there, so I can really relate to that. So so now you say she was your first teacher and you
Mhm.
started teaching, but what precisely were you teaching and doing with it? Was it Reiki? Was it energy healing, or was it?
What, excuse me, I have a cough again. Or clear my throat. Um, what I learned from her, okay, so she was a doctor. So she was a clinical psychologist, and she ended up leaving her practice because she could see that, oh, I can get you to recognize this and talk about this, and this is, kind of your deepest insecurity or whatever you're working on. But to really move past that, she found that it couldn't always happen or wasn't possible. So she started this deep, energetic work, and that I became a part of. So it's really finding out. Again, it's so hard to explain, yet it's finding out everything within you, who you really are, anything that's stuck or any traumas that are within you, and talking them through, but yet in talking them, also knowing energetically where to go. So when I moved to Alabama, I also got certified in Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, and I'm a Reiki master at this point, but I also say that I don't really utilize Reiki. It's just a tool in my toolkit that
Mm.
automatically comes out, but I do any of the symbols or any of that. What I learned from Dr. Peak was, and like you, since that time, have many other things that I've, become attuned to, or whatever you want to call it. But it basically it's kind of like learning the Tao, that energy is in everything. It's in this sheet of paper, it's in this microphone, it's in us. How to work with it, how to be neutral with it. So within that, creating the psychological empathy within me. So it wasn't because of her. I think it was always innate in me that I had to go to someone who that was her thing. And then it turns out to be my thing at the same time. You talk about
Mm.
coincidences, which really aren't coincidental.
Yeah.
Um, that I always had this great empathy within me, but I just didn't realize what to do with it or how to work with it. Did I answer your question? I think I went all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you did. So the work you were doing was
Yeah.
and energetically
Oh, yes.
so you intuitively you were keying in on the things in them that needed to be processed and healed on an
Yeah.
energetic level.
Yes.
So
Okay. So to go back to that specifically, I learned to work within groups. So at the time, everything I did was in a group setting. So I led group classes. Now that's just a small percent of what I do. It's mostly one. So that's how I got
mm,
started. And it was great because at the time, my husband's job was carrying the weight of everything. So, and I was primarily a stay-at-home mom. So I just did this, you know, kind of on my own when we had time. And then when his career moved us to Akron, Ohio, that's when I really started, and the kids started going to school. So yeah.
so you started focusing in more on it.
Mhm.
So so right now with your practice, you're doing you're doing the same type of work even now that you were doing back then. I'm sure. I know you
Oh, yeah.
incorporate different types of techniques and things, but you're still working with energy and helping people pass
Oh,
along
yeah.
traumas
Yes.
and blocks and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's been like 20 years at this point. And as you go through this, you just grow and expand, and especially with what I believe the expansion of humanity going on right now in consciousness. I would say every week, because we're also working together, you and another gentleman, that every week I feel like I'm just a new person in terms of
Yeah.
my gifts or what I can do. So really moving now into more 5-dimensional work, which is astounding and so cool. And my ability to see the the veil, yet even beyond the veil. Again, this is really hard to describe as well, but it is so cool. And again, to tell people, once you start getting into your gifts, it just grows and grows and it grows. It never stops, which makes it so exciting.
Yeah, we'll get into that 5D stuff more as we
Okay.
progress in our chat here. So like typically, what what would somebody typically come to you for? Like that would be seeking your services out. I mean, I know that's probably a pretty broad
So
question. So the stuff helps with everything, but like, can
yes.
you what
Yeah.
would be
So what
your
would I
run
say?
of yeah.
Anything, pretty much. Bipolarism, addiction, because what I also work on is, Western medicine says, well, once you have these certain issues, addiction and eating disorders, you're going to have them for the rest of your life. I'm like, no, you're not. If we start working on them and finding out what the root cause of this is, you can heal from anything. And I've got stories to back this up, because once you do find out the reason why your body did this, because I all believe that your body sacredly tells you that something's off balance. So if your body is saying something and it hurts, it's saying something hurts, and for you to pay
Mm,
attention to it. So if I can get into that and help with that, I also work with grief, anxiety, depression, special needs issues, to the point of someone just wanting to connect to more, to discover their own gifts, their own intuition. This helps with everything. It does. And
yeah.
because primarily one of the big things is meditation, and meditation, I think, especially through the ascension, is the bomb, because it connects you to the source of God, which is within you as well, because I also believe that we are all God as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything, everything, all ages, couples, all religions, all faiths, know that God is a big component of what I do. And some people, hey, I'm bringing God into this. But I'm very good at knowing how much I can discuss of that, because everybody has their own relationship with God and some don't have a relationship. So
At least not one that
my
they're consciously willing to admit, right?
yeah, there you go. So yeah, not to force that on them, or, to make them feel that they have to believe in God in order to be with me. They don't. It just works.
Yeah. That um, something that it just like one of my teachers pointed out to me, and it's like it's something that's so simple, but yet it's something
Yeah.
it's so easy to lose track of, which is that we're all in our own awareness. People are at different levels of awareness of spirit, of God, of oneness, whatever you want to refer to it
Mhm.
as, and so you're going to process things according to what your awareness is, but the reality is that we're all connecting to the same source. So
Mhm.
finding people where they are, and communicating with them, and explaining it to them in a way that in a context that they can understand is really important. But the reality, more importantly, is to see is the realization that we are all one, that we are all connected to the same source.
Mhm. Yes.
Amara, who she always talks
Yes.
about it as, and this is common, but think of God as the ocean, and we as individuals are a drop in the ocean, but we're a part of God. We're all connected. That one
Mhm.
single drop of water is connected to ultimately connected to another
Everything.
drop of water on the other side of the planet. There is
Yes.
a conduit there. And so, just being consciously aware of that, it's really important. It's really important as a healer, I think,
Mhm.
because having that compassion and that connectedness to the person you're trying to help. But it's also
Mhm.
important in terms of just trying to communicate and seeing that, having
Yeah.
that thing in common, you know.
Yes. And you could say again, that I'm a psychological empath intuitive, but it really is faith healing when you get down to it. It's this connection of God. Like I couldn't do anything that I do without God because I also hear things, see things. Um, and I know that I open the door to that. Yet there are so many, like God's helping me, all these guys are helping me. And as you get connected to the bigger picture of entities, spirit that's out there, it is so vast and so
Mm,
broad. And I'll with this too, sometimes I'll have a client that'll come to me because I have reflux and I want to get rid of this reflux. And once that's gone, they go away. Yet there are lots of people that come also to me who want to learn more about spirit and God and how complicated the world is and the
mm.
dichotomies of light and dark and all of that. So I get so thrilled when someone comes to me wanting to open up and really to know more. I mean, that is
Yeah,
just so
sure.
exciting.
I
Yes,
I
and
think
that's what I'm really good at.
it's oh,
What do you
that's yeah.
think?
Well, I think that, I mean, that's why a lot of people are passionate. And speaking for myself anyway, why I'm passionate about the energy healing. It's not so
Yeah.
much. I mean, yeah, of course it's exciting. I mean, how can you not get excited when when God heals somebody? When spirit heals somebody? I mean, it's like it's just incredible, and it's so uplifting. But why choose that over, say, being a chiropractor or an acupuncturist, or or an herbalist, or, I mean, all these things are healed. They're all healers, and
Mhm.
ultimately they're all working with God, right? I mean, it's all
Yes.
energy. But doing this type of work where you're working with something that's not, at least in the physical plane, tangible. You're literally working with
Mhm.
spiritual energy. The implications behind that healing, what that communicates to the person that you're working with, if they're open to it. The
Yes.
cognitive dissonance is a powerful thing, but if they're open to it, the way it can uplift them and bring them peace and open them to these possibilities for themselves is really powerful. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that's this natural byproduct
Yes.
that's pretty awesome. I'm getting behind on some commentary here. Courtney says,
Oh,
yes, makes sense when it makes sense. And she says she saw something today
beautiful.
that said, teach your kids that their ancestors' ashes are in this earth, and teach them that earth is sacred. It was more beautiful than this, but it's so true. Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, it's all connected. It's all connected.
Mhm.
It's all part of the one. Keith Fletcher says, I'm doing a lot more opening up to and loving it. Yeah.
Oh,
That's what it's
good for
about,
you,
baby.
Keith.
Well, and that's, this is another thing. I'm in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a show where I'm just going to talk about the healings that I do and share a little bit. And I might have Elise on to do some psychic readings too, some mediumship
Nice.
readings. But one of the things that, and this is like, everybody knows this, all metaphysicians know this, people that do energy work are keenly aware of this concept, but love is the ultimate power in the universe.
Mhm.
God is
Yes.
love. And and I've just know what he's saying about opening up and loving it. I mean, ultimately opening your heart and nurturing that connection that you have to others, however whatever that looks like
Mhm.
for you at this time in your progression and your involvement. That is the ultimate power. That will make you stronger and bring
Mhm.
more peace and joy, and your ability to affect others. Love is the power. Love conquers everything ultimately. Nothing stands a chance against it. So on the
Yes.
one hand, excuse me, in our society, sometimes, love is seen as you're soft or whatever, but
Mhm.
no, actually love is the shiznot. It's very powerful, and there's nothing soft about it. It's the ultimate power. So, just even though it's, especially for men,
Yes.
it's difficult. I speak for myself, like the different trainings that I go to, I'm usually one of maybe two guys. It's almost all women. And that's not because guys can't do this work. It's because guys aren't comfortable being in that space. Not
Can I
because
add
their
this?
soul isn't comfortable. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It was really interesting when I first started doing this. Like when I would have my group classes, there was like 1 man to 9 women. I would say at this point, it's 50-50 in terms of who comes to see me because I'm about
Yeah.
feelings, and feelings are a gift from God and about vulnerability and love. And there are so many men from my perspective right now who are opening into this and realizing that the old ways of not crying, not showing your feelings do not work. They cause illness and they cause pain. So it has been, and I have guys right now, like, you know, this football player from college. I mean, these aren't just feminine men, if you want to put it that way. These are guys who just come in, and I had one just cry, curl up in a ball on my studio floor. I, I think that people, men right now, especially because it's so important, are willing to start diving into more. And it,
Yeah.
it needs to happen right now.
Well, and the thing too is that, you know, there is such a thing as physical reality. There are
Mhm.
physical threats out there. Sometimes wars do need to be fought. I mean, I don't think they need to be fought near as often as they are. I don't think violence is the answer near as often as it turns out as it is a lot of times, especially throughout history. But you we as a spiritual being, male or female, you can be a warrior and still have an open heart. In fact,
Mhm.
it's I think it's really important that you do. And I'm just speaking for myself. I can, as a cop, I could put on that hard
Oh my
shell
gosh.
and be as fierce as anybody. Um, but that doesn't mean that that's where my heart is. It was a function of what I had to do to protect myself and other people. And so you can do both. You can be a macho man's man and still
Mhm.
have an open heart.
Yes.
And actually you're going to reach more, you're going to reach your fellow dudes and help them open their hearts more when you do have that
Right.
strong, because you're
Mhm.
it's a pure thing. They respect you, and they see that you have that as well. It will open them up to the possibilities.
Mhm. And
So
for us to all know that we all have the divine feminine and the divine masculine in us. The,
that's
the
right.
world today is about finding that balance because it has been weighted too heavily towards the masculine. So, this vulnerability and finding the power in vulnerability versus the, oh, I'm weak if I'm going to be vulnerable. No, man, I can attest
Mm.
being vulnerable, it is hard, yet it is amazing when you can attain it and when you can open up into it and not be scared of it. Because it is
Mhm.
when you're putting your heart out there and someone might
No.
flick it or stomp on it, it's not fun. So it takes guts to do this and
No, it does.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I
yeah,
got a
it's a
lot of
lot.
practice. I'm
It's
good.
it's showing a lot more strength to being willing to hang it out there than it
Yep.
does to put a hard shell around you. That's not what
Mhm.
society teaches. It certainly doesn't make you feel very safe, but that's why there's so much strength involved in it, you know.
Mhm.
So got some more here. Um oh, Keith says, oh, Courtney puts a bunch of hearts. Thank you, Courtney. Keith says,
Ooh,
thank
love
you.
it.
I also went to go look at a house today and don't know why, but I feel like I'm in love with it. Go with that. Trust your heart. If that's the right house for
Oh,
you, then you can't go wrong.
indeed. Yes. Okay.
Um,
So going in, can add to that real quick?
sure.
Just knowing when you go into a house too, if it feels good, that's so important. I just okay, I'm going to get into this for just a second. A video on sacred geometry, and that the houses that were shaped in squares, that the energy just cycles around. So I'm just going to say, open your windows, and especially Keith, if you went to a house and it felt really good, yeah, and you loved it, yeah, go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. There was I'm just to your point, there was a house we lived in out in California that
Yeah.
the person that owned it before us passed away in it. And she was the only owner, and by all accounts, she was just a beautiful, really nice person. So, but still, the idea of this is back in 2013.
Yeah.
So, this is way before my awakening. And I remember expressing a little concern to my wife. I wasn't really concerned, but I still talked to her about it. And she says to me, she gets this look on her face. She says, "Do you feel any weird energy there?" Because I don't. All I feel is loving energy in that house. And
Oh,
and I
yeah.
yeah, no, I totally agree. And there was a lot of loving energy in that house. So she was right. But yeah, I mean, energy is a real thing.
It is
So,
real.
it may be beyond the 3D, but it doesn't mean that it's not real. Um, Courtney says it's harder to love than to hate. And ultimately, I disagree. I think it's much harder to hate than to love, was what it does to you inside, eats you alive. But in the moment,
Mhm.
yes, that is so true.
Mhm.
It does
Yep.
take more strength to love initially. Um, she also says, "You're awesome, Brandon. Make the men feel safe."
Yeah,
Come on,
Copper. Come
guys.
on. Come
Come on,
on.
let me give you a big hug. And Keith says, "Brandon, I know what you mean, but I know I'm supposed to be doing this work." And she says, "So very
Yeah.
true. Love will go through anything." Yep. And Courtney says, "When you feel that in the house, you know it's the one." Congrats in advance to Keith. So we're rooting for
Yes.
you, Keith. Get that house. Get that house.
Woohoo.
Okay, so as an intuitive, like
Yes.
some people, like I'm an intuitive in the sense that I can feel energy moving through my hands, and I can tell what's going, how much is processing. Some people are intuitives because they can literally see things. Some people are clairsentient. They just they can feel. They're claircognizant. They know. What's your
Mhm.
definition for yourself of being an intuitive?
It's pretty much everything. Certain things are stronger. So definitely hear things, see things. Again, you could also call me a medium, a psychic. Like it's like everything. I feel within my body if something within someone is hurting. I don't do this very
Mhm.
often, but I can smell things. If there's I talk to people that have passed away. I can talk. I feel things from this phone. I just all of it.
You're clear. You're
All
basically
of
clear.
it.
You're clear everything.
Claire's. I'm Claire. There you go. Clear everything. I have to write that down. All of that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that's a huge gift to have. It just means that you can help people that much more. I mean, there's also more for you to deal with, but it's also gives you all those tools to help others, which is
Yeah, and at this
wonderful.
point, it's not to deal with, because a lot of people ask me that too, like, "How do you handle this?" Because, there are people that come in that are in extreme pain. I don't take anything on, and that used to be when I first started doing this work. My teacher would come up to me, she's like, "Eden, you cannot take this all on, and you can't force it out either." So, patience and, um, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't it's a interesting place to be that I am not responsible for my clients' happiness, and I tell them that when they come in, like, "You're responsible for doing this work. I'm here to support you, yet this is you. It's all you." So it's this dichotomy again of, "I love you. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna support you, but I'm not here to do this for you." So
Yeah.
it's almost like this, kind of not stern, but just placing boundaries on all of it, like loving, healthy boundaries as well. Because
Well, I
when
mean,
people are hurting
ultimately,
too.
your goal is to help them, not
Yes.
just in if whatever physical or specific,
Mhm.
psychological, problem they're coping with, but you're helping them as a
Right.
soul to evolve, right?
Mhm.
and you can't just do that for them as much as you would
No.
like to. It's like,
No.
like with I mean, I've noticed with it's a hard thing to wrap your brain around when you're doing healings on some people, and they get these remarkable results, and then as somebody else, you just, no matter what, you just can't seem to get through. It just doesn't do the, and that's not on you as a healer. That's something, with them, that the energy isn't getting through for whatever reason, blockage, them not willing to take it in. There's
They have to
different,
be ready
yeah.
and
So
on some level be ready for it and want it as well.
that's a hard, I mean, I'm not near, I've only been doing this for well, not, let's see, going on 5 years. So really, I'm in my infancy, especially, compared to you or some, but, way further along now than I was, but still, that's one of the, just speaking for myself, that's one of the most difficult lessons to learn, is to
Mhm.
get rid of the concerns about about the result, the perceived expectations, the results that you're
Yes.
hoping to achieve, and performance. Like, it's not about that. What it's about is that intent that you're coming at it with,
Mhm.
connectedness to love and light and to God, and approaching it from that, um,
Mhm.
from that motivation, and from that energetically coming at it from that level. But that's not
Yes.
that's not, especially in Western society, that's not what we're conditioned to do. We're conditioned to achieve.
Mhm.
You become a healer. Well, I'm only a good healer if I heal all these people, and
Yep.
that's not what this is about. That's ego. That's
Mhm.
about, that's making it, not that you're doing it with ill intent, but you're coming at it wanting to, to achieve as a healer, as opposed to bringing peace and love and light to the people that
Yes.
you're serving. And it sounds simple. It's not as easy as it sounds when you start going through it, because of our conditioning.
No.
It's
No.
really, I can
And
tell you, it's been very difficult.
yeah. Well, to add
Yeah.
to that, I have, people coming who are struggling with relationships. And a lot of the times I know right off the bat the how that relationship is going to end. Let's put it that way. Yet it isn't. A lot of times some I can guide that and encourage that and ask questions. Yet the majority of the time it isn't to go, "Oh, I know this already. Let me just go ahead and share this with you." Like if someone's coming in struggling with marriage, for me to go, "Oh, y'all aren't compatible energetically," I feel that is not my place. So to go into it to help get them to see the truth and the reality, and sometimes they do not want to see the truth,
That's
and
right.
that's not my responsibility. That's not my and also to put that out there that any clients that come to me, that they're going to teach me, and they're also going to be clients that I can help. So it's both of those things. And I also don't know, again, what am I going to be taught? What lessons do I need to learn? How do I need to grow? So you don't know who's going to step their
That's
foot
true.
through that door.
That, that's true. That's true. Well, ultimately,
Yes.
you're coming at it. It's what are you coming at it? What are you trying to achieve? Love and light. That's what it
Right.
ultimately is
Right.
about, right?
Yes.
Courtney says, tough love. Yeah. Um, no matter the modality, the person must want to be healed. For some, their pain
Yes.
is in their story and all they have. The healer is the
Yes.
facilitator and never
Victimhood.
responsible for the actual healing. So, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you can be a good channel. You can bring all that to them, but if they're not willing to take it in, it's not, it's
Yep.
not going to work. And
Yes.
Courtney also says, if you have to ask, then you know the answer. Yeah, a lot of the times that's probably true. Um, okay. What, dear Eden, is a
Yes.
psychological? What is a psychological empath? I mean, I think we
Well,
can
it's kind
intuitively know what that is. Just it's self-explanatory, but still, in your words, what would you say?
yes. Yeah, I again, using bringing all the clairs into it, I use that term because people can understand it a little bit more than just intuition. So psychological empath means I can feel your emotions and know what's going on with your emotions and where they're sitting in your body. So not a medical intuitive, but more feelings and emotions. Like I can totally feel that. I can feel it in your physicalness. Like that is my where I can really attune to things. How
Okay.
was
So
that
like,
in terms of
so
explanation?
let's say you, let's say somebody comes in and, and
Yes.
they, how when you're really hurting and you're just wounded emotionally and you get that feeling in your gut, in your solar plexus, and you get the butterflies and you feel numb. You can actually feel like that's
Mhm.
how you actually feel just the way they do, or you kind of just, does it present in a way where you know that that's what they're feeling, but you don't quite feel it at that same level?
That's great that you brought that up. It's different with every person. Okay, for example, if someone comes in and they're having shoulder pains, like sometimes I see literal arrows, all these cliches about you carry too much weight on your shoulders, you've been stabbed in the back. Like literally, I will see knives in people's backs. So energetically, I work to remove them. Um, Another priceless thing is if someone is telling me something, but it's not true, I'll
Mhm.
know in a moment. So, for example, someone who's, I've had many people go, I've been to, PhDs and did all this therapy for years, but coming to you this one time, I got so much more out of it because I just know stuff. I mean, they don't even have to tell. Okay, so let's say they're having a problem with their child. I can say, oh, I see this with your child, and your child is doing this. And they're like, yes. So it can so quickly bring things about and healing so fast because they don't have to come in and go, hey, I need to tell you my life story. And this first session is just going to be us getting to know each other. No, you
Mhm.
walk in the door and I know stuff.
You
Let's
you cut through
let's
the
get to
bullshit.
it. Go through the
You cut through the
bullshit. Yes.
bullshit.
Back to the
But
toilet.
even there though, they have
Potato
to be
and flush
willing
the
to
toilet.
own it when you call them out on it though, right? I mean, or
Mhm.
not call out's a negative thing, but when you point it
Yes.
out to them, they have to be willing to say, "You're right. You're right."
Yes. Or and knowing how to point it out gently versus, oh, what you're saying is a lie. Or yeah, so I've become
Lying
very
sack of shit. I know
yes,
you're lying.
I've become very nuanced in terms of saying, but I also know when to not let someone get away with something, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I a lot of times I hear things and I've gotten to the point where I can process through it really quickly. So some things I hear, I know I'm not supposed to say yet, or it's just for me. And then there are other things that I hear and I'll sit there like say there are 5 things and it's so quick now. I go, yes, yes, yes. And then know what to talk about with them or what
I
to
tell
bring
you,
up or
I got to just full disclosure. Eden and I have become good friends over the last few months. So after me starting with me being on her show, and then we work together, and we have Todd Wilcox, who we work with also. We're a trio of love and light, right? But
yeah.
now I'm gonna wonder how much what does she think I'm lying? Is she
Oh
am
no.
I not owning not owning what's going on in my head? I'm making up excuses. She's going to see it immediately. You better you know what I'm saying?
We'll talk about
I
this
mean, we all
later
do that, right? We
offline.
all
And I don't want to say lies, but even things that people think are true about themselves, but I know they're really not. So it's
yeah,
beautiful to also go, I don't feel, and it's the relief that comes over people's face sometimes when because I see you.
yeah,
I see the truth of you. So when you say something that isn't true about yourself and I can say that I see differently, it's just incredible sometimes people that just the relief that comes off of them because a lot of times they've been told that they're a certain way all their life that when someone else comes in and feels that they're not that they can suddenly start to be
yeah.
free of it.
I,
Oh my
that's the thing.
gosh.
I think right away my brain went to, oh, you're saying something positive about yourself that's not true. You're out of, and that's not always the case either. Sometimes you're saying negative things about yourself that aren't
Oh,
true.
a lot
You
of
can,
that.
I know you've done that to me a lot, where because I have a tendency to bash on myself, and
Oh
not on this
yes.
show, of course, but behind closed doors.
Oh, yes.
And you're quick to jump my shit and tell me that no, stop. uh, and let's see, Keith is asking, are you going to be doing any classes online?
Keith, oh my gosh. Thank you for asking. I have been since my podcast is about a year old. So starting to become connected to people all over the world, I have been thinking about doing and tell me what you think about this, at least a beginner meditation class, like three classes, because again, I think that meditation is the link to finding your purpose, finding your gifts, getting more connected to God. It
Absolutely.
is just so that's kind of what I'm thinking of right now, which of course that could expand into much more detailed classes. But yeah, thinking about doing a Zoom session for that. So thank you so much for asking about that, because it's been percolating in my mind. So suddenly I'm like, oh God,
There
let
you
me
go.
write this
There's
down.
nothing happens for by accident, right? Thanks for the
Yes,
question,
and
Keith.
yeah, and let me include in that too. These aren't just, oh, beginner meditation. This, no, I bring myself into it as well, because this process is different for everybody. And within the class too, I would, oh, I feel this within you. So there's a lot of discussion. So it isn't just your mama's meditation class. There you
Hey,
go.
mama could be powerful depending on who mama be, right? Let's see. So Haley says masks, like masks that we wear to protect ourselves, or just to
Yeah.
you to
Yeah.
be just us. Courtney says, and name one truth for each of us. LMAO. Let's all get uncomfortable. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to wear a mask these days. I have faith in our generation. And she says, "Ooh, a meditation group." So positive things there. And Keith says, "Too funny. Meditation is one of my weaknesses." So, and he says, "Laugh out loud and thank you." So, sounds like you would
Okay.
have at least
So
one student right there.
please reach out, to go to my website or whatever. Yeah. Please tell me if you are interested, and I'll let you know when, because I'm thinking March to start this off.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna just while on that note, um, I'll give you an opportunity to do this later, of course. Oh man,
Yeah.
hold on just a
What?
second.
Sure.
I had everything all brought up so I could grab it real easily and read it.
Aw.
But I just want to read your websites. So Keith, if you want to, or anybody else that's listening right now, if you want to reach out to Eden, to inquire about her classes, edenjustbe.com. You can reach her there, right, Eden?
Mhm.
Can you there?
Yeah, that's the best, and my email's on there, and, and everything. My phone number's on there, so you can text me, because that's usually the quickest way I respond.
So awesome. Okay. So yeah,
Yes.
good stuff. Good stuff, Maynard, as they used to say. You remember those commercials, right? Good stuff, Maynard. I
No.
just no,
No.
I can't even
No.
remember what they were advertising, but it was in the early 80s,
Yeah.
early 80s. So
Maybe that's
uh,
California,
uh,
not down south where
oh,
I'm from.
that could be. Yes, that could
Maybe.
be. I'm gonna punch in real quick. I'm gonna punch in. Oh, can I do that? I don't know if I can actually punch anything in there. Can I? Um, Todd, could if you're listening, could you put edenjustbe.com up on the page on the comments? If you, I don't see where I can do it. Maybe I can, and maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Hmm.
But just so people can see it as a, you know, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So you have a lot. Oh, there it is. There it is at the bottom of the screen.
Cool.
edenjustbe.com. You can see it right there.
Nice.
edenjustbe.com.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, so I knowing you, like a lot of this stuff that we've talked about, and there it is. There, he put it up there 3 times. So in case you didn't see it the first time, you just two more. Okay. You know, since the stuff that we've talked about as far as your healing, I mean, this is all stuff
Yeah.
we've never really discussed this. We just knew that we were both healers and we've talked about things on that level. But
Mhm.
when you're a big emphasis personally, your mission, aside from doing the work that you've been doing for the last 30, how long? 20, 30 years?
Getting close to 25 years, maybe 22,
Okay.
23,
But
something like
in
that.
those 25 years, the world has changed drastically.
Yes.
And right now we're in the middle of a huge change and
Yes.
an awakening. And
Mhm.
that's become your focus is helping people to open to the 5D consciousness and the great awakening. Not, I mean, the political part of it is an aspect of it, but it's more of a reflection of the overall consciousness shifting, right? So
Yes.
why don't we get into that a little bit. I mean,
Oh
we've
my
got 10 minutes left
gosh.
on this show. I'm
Okay,
glad.
we'll start.
I'm glad that we just decided to do shows because it's clear that we're going to need it. So
Okay.
why don't you just kind of give a brief, or just go off, talk to us about what the 5D awakening is.
Okay.
Oh, wait a
Can
minute.
I?
Wait a minute. Wait, let me
What?
stop. Hold on a second. Shannon White. Shannon White says, she says, I know that Malto meal commercial. That's what it was. It was Malto meal. And good stuff, Maynard. It's got to be somebody else out there that
I do
knows that
not know that at
commercial.
all.
Shannon's a friend of mine from high school.
Oh,
Who,
okay. So maybe it was a
and
California thing.
so it probably is a West Coast thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. West Coast.
Sorry. Okay. I got excited because I saw who put it on this. It's funny. Okay. Okay. So the Great Awakening.
Yes. All right. How deep should I go into this? Considering we've got 10 minutes. How should I start out with it?
Why don't
Because you
you
can go pretty
why
deep.
don't you why don't you kind of talk about it in more general terms,
Okay.
just to get people interested, kind of whet their palate a little, and then that way they won't be
Gotcha.
able to wait until next week.
There we go.
That's
All
fine.
right. So the Great Awakening, I'm sure many of you have noticed right now how there is chaos in the world. There is extreme division when we talk about politically, sexual differences, the competition, the bad mouthing people, the mainstream news, and the fear that's being perpetuated. All of this, in my belief, is we are leaving the three-dimensional structure, which is all of these things. And right now, most of us are in the lower 4D, and we are moving into the heart, essentially. Yet to do that right now,
Moving into heart.
to the heart, where the heart is going to be the leader versus the mind and the intellect. And so moving into this place of the heart where there is trust and there is harmony and there is balance, yet to go from where we are right now to that, everything's got to crumble and break down. And that's where we're in right now. So
People have to be able to see the negativity and the illusion that they've been under in order for them to move on
yes,
to the next thing. Kind of
yes,
like hitting bottom. The hitting bottom.
yes.
You always have to hit bottom before you go up, or it always is
Hmm.
darkest before the light.
Hmm.
Right?
So to convey that all of this does have incredible spiritual significance, and my belief is also that this has to do with our souls and our spirituality. And I believe that the divine light has already won and God has won. So I'm not concerned or worried about anything. Yet there's also this part right now that the more people that can wake up and shift in their awareness and are a part of this, the faster it can come to fruition. Again, we all have free will. So I can't sit here and say, oh, this is going to last 5 more years or 10 more years and it's going to look like this. I have no idea because every day that changes based on who is noticing things, and fear is a huge, kind of kryptonite to all this as well. I had a good point I was going to make of this. For those of us that are in the light and really working on our vibration. So for me, as an example, because I'm where I am and not talking on an ego level or whatever, because my vibration is open and good, I'm like, I can balance out maybe 5,000 to 1,000,000 people. So as others, I hope this makes sense, as others increase their vibration as well, again, the light is much stronger than the dark. Again, love is so much stronger than fear. So for
Yeah,
me, it's
it's
not
the ultimate
only,
power.
yes, intensely increasing my vibration. So I stopped a while back, not eating sugar anymore because sugar really damages your aura and your light field. No alcohol, which I wasn't really heavy into alcohol, but right now with the spirits, anything that numbs you is from my perspective not good for me. So I tried to stop caffeine. So I'm still drinking. Well, I only had one a day, but I'm still having caffeine in there. I'm hoping to rid as well, and also eating well organically. And there's so much that's going into our water and our food right now to dumb down the pineal gland, which I think is it's all of our birthright, and that connects us to. Oh my gosh, I'm just on a roll. Connects us to that part of us that is connecting to one another, that is psychic. So this is so big, and this is centuries in the making. So when I say so big, it is monumental. Can I say that again? Monumental. Oh, let's take a little breath.
I don't,
Woo!
I think, I, I think anybody listening to a show like this is probably
Yeah.
pretty keenly aware of
Mhm.
that
Something of
we're
more.
in a pretty significant shift. Just
Yes.
if maybe they might not be looking at it as this, there's literally a spiritual shift happening, that where consciousness is changing, but we're
Mhm.
definitely, I agree with you, by the way, but I mean, certainly if you just look at the way, just take our country alone, but forget the rest of the world, just our country alone, the way, none of the policies seem to make any sense. None of them, they're clearly not meant to do what they say they're meant to
Mhm.
do. They never do what they say they're meant to do.
Mhm.
You know, the last 5 years, I mean, like the COVID thing. I mean, there's all this stuff that just, you just know
And masks.
instinctively. Yeah, it's not.
Mhm.
It's not.
Literal masks.
Things are not on the up and up,
Mhm.
and that in turn makes you realize, wait a minute, I don't think things
Mhm.
have been on the up and up at all for a long,
For a
long time.
long, long time, and when you
There,
really
there's
start to
yeah.
research and see, and let me add to, so this is a battle, literally. I initially, it was challenging for me for it to be described as a battle, especially between God and Satan. Yet, maybe we talk about this on the next show, the things that I have seen in the past 2 years, and I psychological attacks. So I clean houses. That isn't my primary job, but I do that. I've probably done 40 or 50. So I would go in, and I've seen a lot of crazy things, if you want to call it that. Yet I don't have fear, and I come into a house versus, we got a Satan and we got a Bible and we got a no. I come in with love, very calm. Yet this house that I went into I guess it's almost been a year now, and this was perfect for me to see, because this really showed me, in terms of this battle and in terms of Satan and in terms of evil, what I was confronted with was, it was horrifying, yet I was cool. It's weird to even use these adjectives to describe it, to just still be calm and yet see it in front of the face, like they were black devils, demons that were showing me, we're going to take your body and we're going to take out your vocal cords and we're going to stomp you down. I mean, it was so violent, to the point I had to call my mentor and go, I don't quite know what to do with this. I've never experienced this before. And she helped advise me just to say the Lord's Prayer. And then I was gonna eat lunch with a couple after I left, and she said, "No, you need to get out of there, because number 1, they don't like you being there right now, and this was portal." And because of all this as well, and the Great Awakening, there to me is much more darkness, there's much more open around us, to that as well. So I also want to tell people that a lot of us are going to start experiencing more things that we have experienced before, either dark or light. So really to be discerning about things.
Well, as a compliment,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have shown up and showed you such a graphic display and tried to intimidate you and scare you like that
Mhm.
if you weren't making a big difference for the light, right?
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
so I mean, get behind me, Satan.
Yeah,
You know.
way back there. And I've gotten to the point too where, I did a lot of research for my podcast as well, because I always wanted to be in the know about what's going on in the world. I've kind of shifted from that. Like, I still want to know what's going on from a human perspective, but to give that as little attention as possible and really to start focusing on the divine and the light to really
Yeah.
help usher it in at this point.
Yeah.
But to also understand that humanity and it's a lot to take once you start going down the rabbit hole and seeing what does this really mean, and it is ingrained in every facet of our society as well. Places you wouldn't expect. It's there.
Okay. Okay. That's
Is
that.
that
That's
perfect? Whew.
that's perfect. There's going to be. I mean, I I hope I can ask some good questions. Maybe I'll just let you go off. Next week.
Yes, good at that.
Let's real quick. I want to catch up on some comments that were made.
Yes.
Courtney says Wisconsin remembers they remember the Malto meal commercial. The good stuff in here.
What?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it wasn't just in Cali. Maybe
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe you
down
didn't. You
south is
just.
its own world.
And she says, in order to build it, we must break it down. Talking about
Yep.
the awakening. And Keith says, yes, 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 and I can sometimes feel it on people that I meet and help with it in my job.
Mm.
The tower card. I'm not sure that Courtney says the tower card. I'm not sure what that. Maybe
Yeah,
from
please.
a card deck. Maybe.
Probably a tarot card. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please explain that if you can, because yeah, I love tarot, but I'm not connected to that.
So if you
Oh,
can
maybe the
type
tarot
it in
card
real
is falling
quick,
down.
if you type it in real quick, Courtney, or maybe next week we can talk about it.
Okay.
And she says, yes, they are shutting us off. Like that's the idea is to
Yep.
kill our
Mm-hmm.
make it so we're
Yep.
not
Mask and
aware.
yep.
And yeah, the mask, keeping us from, like, with the lockdowns, keeping us from being able to talk to each other and
Mm-hmm.
connect, and easily manipulated and
Mm-hmm.
energetically. What were those beings trying to do to you? They were trying to shut you down.
Shut me down.
And I have to
Yep.
say, I personally have gone through you're aware of it, but I personally have had my own battle recently that I think has got something to do with all this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney says upright card, accident or damage, catastrophe, destruction, renovation, more reverse card, illness, losses, obstacles, volatile situations.
Nice.
So
Yes.
okay. Well, I think on that note, we'll leave it for next week. So next week we'll talk all about the Great Awakening, the 5D awakening. We'll get more into the specifics of where you see it, where you see signs of this in society,
Mm-hmm.
all the way from what you see from around you every day in town, to all the way up to the government, certainly the media. All these things are big influences. And as far as me, if you have any interest in reading Tyson's Gift, find out about my awakening and how I started on this path through my beautiful dog Tyson, tysonsgift.com. If you're interested in any of my offerings as far as the healings that I do, you can check me out at tysonsgifthealing.com. I think I finally have enough. I have enough testimonials. I'm going to put a testimonial section on there. Getting people to write testimonials is really hard. They don't want to put themselves out there, especially with this type of work. I've found
Oh.
well, I've done some healings for people, like they've gotten profound healings, and then I ask them for a testimonial, and they're like afraid they're going to be judged by their friends. It's weird.
We'll talk about that.
It's you would think they would be like chomping at the bit to help to get other people to want to do it, but not necessarily the case. But I have gotten a handful of people that have been willing to do it, and so I'm going to put that on there. But don't worry, I can actually help you. so well, I've had fun, Eden.
All
Glad
right.
you came on,
Awesome.
and so
Thank y'all so much.
So next week we'll continue with this. Oh, Keith says thank you and many blessings. Have a great week.
Oh,
And
thank
Courtney
you.
says thank you guys, Brandon, Mrs. Eden, Todd. Thank you, Courtney.
Yay.
Thanks for being loyal watcher/listeners. It's great to have regulars here. I'm glad you're enjoying the show and glad you got something out of tonight. So So you want to stick around? I'll see you in just a second.
Yes, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
All right. See you next week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.